Well, hello there, traveler. Why don't you pull up a seat and join us at our campfire for a bit of Sleepy Hollow? You know there's a real Sleepy Hollow in New York. You should visit it sometimes, if you dare. Today's story is actually narrated from the perspective of the Headless Horseman himself. Bet you never knew what he thought about everything, did you? It was kindly provided to us by Christine Rains, who is a wonderful author of this story and many other works. We will put her links in the description as well as the comments. Check her out and subscribe to our channel for more spooky goodness.
All I wanted was their heads. At least I didn't make my victims suffer. I didn't sup upon their blood or rip apart their souls. That was the job of other demons, and I was glad to leave them to it. The business of heads was tough enough. It was especially difficult when hunters came in search of me. Full of bluster and brandishing shiny new guns, they made a great mess of things. I've holes in my jacket and even my boots. Didn't they realize I'm already dead? I would never get a chance to change my uniform. The most recent pillock called himself Ichabod Crane. Dreadful name. Young but sly. Ichabod prided himself on being an accomplished teacher. The children would flourish under his tutelage and the town of Sleepy Hollow would blossom. The townspeople welcomed him, put him up in their homes, and showered him with gifts. Ichabod even managed to catch the eye of the most eligible maid in town, the Van Tassel heiress. Never once have I been in town, but it would amaze folks to know how much more I hear without ears. Or a head. For mine I had tied onto my belt for convenience. Being a hunter, Ichabod was deemed a little odd. He jumped at the smallest of noises and never walked over someone's grave. Superstitious in some people's eyes, but he was only following his training. I could respect that, but not his bragging. A local farmer dared cross my territory, and I lopped off his head. Not much value in it, but I wanted Ichabod to make his move. To my benefit, the old farmer had been friendly with the Van Tassel girl, and she wept for him. What an opportunity for the hunter to prove his worth. But he didn't seek me out. Instead, he sipped tea and ate biscuits as he comforted the girl. What Ichabod didn't do, bull-headed Brom van Brandt did. Brom had his sights on the heirs before the hunter had arrived, and since he couldn't outperform him in the social arena, he was going to avenge the farmer for the lovely maid. Brom wasn't too bright, but he packed mighty strength in his ox's body. He used a sledge. I'd never been hit by a hammer before. I couldn't be knocked from my stallion's saddle, but the blow pushed me onto my back. Something crunched within my rotted chest. The agony was unique. My hellish mount shrieked and kicked. His hoofs struck true and left their mark upon Brom's shoulder and forearm. Springing up, I slashed with my sword, and Brom's head rolled into a pile of autumn leaves. His body crumpled to the forest floor. The stallion danced over it to retrieve his head. Better than the farmer's, but 'twas Ichabod's I wanted. Surely he couldn't ignore his duty now. But he did. For a whole day. I was beginning to doubt that he was a hunter until the tears of the girl sent Ichabod into the woods. Or perhaps it was the refused proposal. Watching from the shadows, I could see he carried him but a single gun. Shiny and new, never been fired. Had the hunter done anything more than avoid walking under ladders and leaving cream out for the fairies? He whistled as he rode. With the way he fumbled with the notes, I couldn't see how it gave him any comfort. No musician was this man, and it only served to stir the birds and his old steed to irritation. My stallion was in the mood for a chase, a way to work up his appetite. We waited until Ichabod had gone a goodly distance up the road by the enormous tulip tree, and then we charged. What a fearsome sight we made! But at least Ichabod's girlish scream wasn't accompanied by a wetting of his trousers. The hunter held up his gun, but with his hand shaken so, the shot went wild. His horse took off in a mad dash, and Ichabod had to drop his gun to grab hold of the beast around its neck. He was a poor rider, and likely saddled the animal himself, because the saddle fell off and was trampled under my stallion's vicious hoofs. The old horse led us on a merry chase. Terror is such a wonderful motivator. But then the witless beast ran for the bridge. I dug my heels into my steed's sides. It was unnecessary, for he had reason enough on his own to run them down, but we couldn't let them get away. We were but a horse's length away when Ichabod escaped onto the bridge. My stallion reared up, snarling, and my fist squeezed tight the pommel of my sword. Rage erupted soundlessly from my neck. The hunter fell off his mount at the other side of the bridge. His skinny, long legs shook as he stood and stared back at me. Damn the prescripts of my curse. My stallion pawed at the ground as I considered my sword. No, I couldn't reliably throw the thing, and there would be no way to retrieve it. I would not be without my weapon, but my head. I yanked it up, ripping the foul cotton that I had it tied with. Holding it in one hand above me, I threw it with all my strength. Ichabod hadn't yet moved, but when he finally realized what I had done, he was too late. The sound of the impact carried across the bridge. The hunter stumbled and came too close to the unstable edge of the river. He fell with a great splash. If he wasn't dead before he hit the water, floating face down for a long while as I followed him downstream, made sure of it. The current finally brought Ichabod to my shore. I fished him out and chopped off his head. My dark steed promptly set upon his meal. I had to keep him fed, or the nightmares he would drip would make my legend fall to shame. They were only heads. It's not as if many men use them well in life, and I speak from experience. I don't miss mine one whit.